welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to talk about some books I've been reading. As you can possibly tell, they are all Mills Boon, and I love Mills Boon. I probably own well over 100 Mills Boon books. I love that they are so short and they are deceptively steamy. If you like dark romance, but like dark romance light, these you need to get in on these. These are heavy on the age gap, the forced proximity, the compromising situations, the boss aspect, what's the word I'm thinking of, position of authority type situations. That's what I'm thinking of. A lot of secretaries falling in love with their bosses or the head of the company, that kind of dealy do. There's a lot of fake datings and baby makings, and yes, it's all Mills Boon, guys. Underrated. So I have read 4 of these, and I'm currently in the middle of reading 2 others. So the ones I've read, first one being, this is Reckless Conduct by Susan Napier. If you can make out that sparkliness, it's because I've read this so many times, and it is a very old book. This was first published in 1996. I've read it so many times that the spine is starting to wear away. And what I did was, in one of my last Temu hauls, I got a bunch of these sort of like sparkly acetate stickers, and I just sort of, you know, did the thing. And now it's got me thinking, what if I just decorate them all like that? It's really pretty. And I'm never going to get rid of them. So it would be a good preservation technique. Let me know what you guys think. Would you cover, it kind of reminds me of, they do it in libraries. They have this like sticky stuff that they put over the cover to protect it. It's probably just called cover protector, but you know what I mean. But this is about a secretary who decides to take control of her life and has a complete makeover, and she goes from the mousy secretary to the blonde bombshell, but her boss despises blondes. And he's been a bit off with her lately anyway. Has been since the New Year's Eve party. Can you guess what happened there? But yeah, this does a really nice sort of forced proximity and position of power and age gap, because he's like a lot older than her. He asks her, despite her shocking change of appearance, to chaperone his 15-year-old daughter who wants to quit school and get a job and things. So he makes her, Harriet is the character. He makes Harriet take his daughter under her wing and take her through all the boring stuff in the company, like filing and typing and all that. And of course we are talking about the early 90s. So when I mean filing and typing, we're not talking about whizzing computers. We're talking like old style dot matrix word processors here. But he wants to spend time with his daughter, so they're going to set up sort of this family dynamic, and he takes them out to lunch, and they spend an awful lot of time together, and she's in the process of trying to carve out this new Harriet, and she goes on dates, and what is the boss called again? I can't remember. Marcus. And Marcus doesn't think this suits her personality at all, and she's all like, oh well, what would you know about me? You only know what I'm like here. Outside in the real world, I'm very mature and into sophisticated things like caviar and And then she goes on a date with the office, I don't want to say stud, sleazeball, the office sleazeball, who didn't even give her a second look until she had this makeover. And Marcus comes in at a very compromising moment and rescues her, and things sort of start snowballing from there. Next up I read Walk Into Tomorrow by Rosemary Carter, and this is about a girl who comes out of a very sort of toxic relationship. There's an attack that happens and she just wants to get away from everything because it's become like it got picked up by the media, and she's become sort of this sort of pariah in society. She has an affair with, I believe it's her college professor, and there's so many other people like, oh well, he wasn't like with that with me, you must have led him on, you know, the usual. So she decides she wants to get away, and her parents have died and they left her money, and she remembers this lovely trip they took when she went to this tea house up in a mountain, and that tea house is up for sale, so she decides to buy the tea house. And when she goes up there, it's in the middle of the winter, there's snowstorms, and the guy dropping her off is like, couldn't you just wait till spring? She's like, no, I have to do this now. And he drops her off, and when she gets to the cabin, there's someone there waiting for her. And the guy who's waiting for her is the guy who owns the hotel, and he comes up to meet her because, you know, there's someone new arriving, new to the area, and, you know, it's the mountains. Mountains can be dangerous. And she gets very surprised when she sees someone there. She goes in, brandishing a screwdriver, and he's very taken aback by it because, you know, his intentions are pure, but the stance she's coming from, it's, you know, understandable. And you know, he helps her get settled and talk about why she's there and why she came at this time of year. And then she sort of pushes him to say goodbyes, and he's like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. She's like, what do you mean? Why are you not going anywhere? It was like, well, it's dark outside and it's very snowy. I'm not taking the risk of going down the trail. It's very dangerous. And apparently it's, you know, it's a common thing up in the mountains that if it's too dark to go back to where you came from, you stay over. And she's like, I have to stay here with this stranger. So she goes into her room and she makes herself a little camp bed. He sleeps in the kitchen, and she barricades the door with a chair, which is no match for him when he comes barging in because she's having night terrors, and he comes in to comfort her, and she totally freaks out on him. But this is definitely one of those more forced proximity type stories, because when they wake up in the morning, he's still not going anywhere because they're snowed in, and they're snowed in for, I would say, like a week. I think this story takes place over, and yeah, and then their relationship sort of progresses from there. There are other twists to it, like he's trying to get her to overcome her fear, and she thinks he's just trying to get her to not get her to be a notch in his bedpost, and that he's probably got all these this other bevy of beauties. And there's a point where she sees him kiss another woman, and she completely oh no, what, I remember what it was. She thinks he's trying to sleep with her so that she'll sell him the tea house. That's what it was. And then she sees him with this other woman, and it sort of backs up her theory that that's what's going on, and she completely cuts off all ties with him until she gets an invitation to speak to him about the purchase of the tea house. But it's not quite what she's expecting. I have two books by the same author. These are both by Miranda Lee. And this is the other reason I like Mills and Boon, because they're very short form fiction. They're like 180 pages-ish, maybe 200 most. But it gives you a chance to read multiple books by the same author in a short space of time. It's a good analysis into formalized storytelling. For Miranda Lee, from the books I've read so far, her sort of blueprint is the girl has had a crush on this guy for such a long time that she would do just about anything to make it happen. She knows he'll never be hers for real, but if she could just get a taste, that would be enough to satiate her for the rest of her life. And that is what the daring proposition sort of starts with. She's been in love with her boss for the last 4 years, but he is a serial womanizer. And the women that he goes for are these like petite, flat-chested blonde things. And she's this bodacious Amazonian brunette. And he'd never. But what it turns out is he sees himself as a rake. So he sees it as, if he spends all his time with good time girls, then it won't matter. They know what they're getting into. They know what I'm offering. It's a win-win. But she doesn't know this, Samantha. And then Guy has a major incident where his father has a heart attack and almost dies. And it makes him reevaluate life. He still isn't in for a commitment, but he wants a baby. If only he could find someone who could hold the same morals and values that he does. Because he is actually a very moral man, and he believes he's being very moral in the way he picks his partners. Which in a way I suppose he is. If only he could find someone moral like him and wholesome to have and raise his child for him, because he doesn't want any like surrogates, because that could lead to a whole court case issue. But he doesn't want artificial insemination. He wants a man-made baby, if you get what I mean. And of course, Samantha is like, well, I mean, if you can't find anyone better, hi. And the the flames start a-burning from there, and wow, like this had me on the edge of my seat. It was intense. So when I picked up A Kiss to Remember by Miranda Lee, this is a bit more risque because it does, like, that one is like the power dynamic and the age gap. This also has the age gap, but the initial kiss, the initial perspective of the story is a 15-year-old girl whose brother brings home his friend from university, and the friend took a gap year, so his friend is actually 22, so it's like a 7-year age gap already, and she's just besotted by him, and he is completely enamored by her. He doesn't realize that she's only 15 until someone points out to him, and so he, he's a bit hands off. He's still gazing at her and everything, but he's doing the appropriate thing. He shouldn't be thinking that way. He should be about a girl that age, but she just can't stop. She can't stop the flutters, and she writes poetry about him, and she makes the most of all the time she gets alone with him, and then on the last night she begs him to kiss her, and it is the most knee-buckling, mind-blowing experience of her little 15-year-old life, as it would be. I mean, it would be, wouldn't it? But it has sort of been the meter stick she measures all men up against for the rest of her life. And now I believe she's like 23. I don't think it tells you. But she's 23. No, she's 24 now, and she's still a virgin because she only wants to give herself to someone she loves, or someone who gives her that same feeling that Lance gave her when he kissed her. And then she's become a guidance counselor in an all-girls school, and she's trying to convince all these 17-year-old girls not to just throw their virginity away. And she's like, how can I counsel these girls when I don't even have a relationship? And her and her flatmate come up with this plan that, she's just going to do it. She's just going to rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with. So she dolls herself out like this siren and goes to her brother's birthday party, and lo and behold, Lance appears. He's been off and gotten married and has been off. This is set in, actually, oddly enough, all apart from this one is set in Australia. There's a lot of Australia. But it's set in Australia. They're in Sydney. He's been living in Melbourne. And she thinks he's forgotten about her and he's off living this magnificent life with his beautiful, stunning wife. The last time she saw him was at his wedding. So when she opens the door and he sees her looking the way she does, and he's all disheveled from the drive from Melbourne because him and his wife have broke up, oh man, it's a moment. And he's all, you know, he's been madly in love with her the whole time. He has. But on the advice of his brother, her brother, on the advice of her brother, Bud, Lance has stayed away. He tried to, you know, throw himself into other relationships and not ruin Bud's sister. But he just could never stop thinking about her. So she thinks it's a chance occurrence. But Lance has never stopped holding a candle for Angie. And of course Angie is a family girl, and of course she's going to be at Bud's birthday. So what better place to show up after you've broken up with your wife and you really want the one that you always wanted. But yeah, when he works out that, you know, she's still carrying her V card and she's been holding out for him, it's like the cherry on top, if you'll forgive the analogy. But yeah, this one, the cover came off while I was reading it. I was gripping it so tightly. So yeah, I'll have to fix that. Bit of super glue up the spine. And that brings us to the two that I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading The Marrying Game by Lindsay Armstrong and Dangerous Obsession by Patricia Wilson. I've read a Patricia Wilson book before and I really enjoyed it. I believe it was about a girl who'd been left money in a will from a man, and the entire family thought she was having an affair with him when actually it turned out she was his daughter from a relationship before he'd met his wife, and the mother of that child saw his happiness and didn't want to ruin it. But he figured it out later in life, and they had like this secret relationship. But yeah, it's a good story. It's really good. I'll dig it out again and we'll talk about it. I might do a video just on like the Christmassy type Mills and Boons, because I know everybody loves a Christmas romance. I do. But this one is, since her foster brother Dan had so cruelly dashed her hopes of winning his love, Anna has done her best to eliminate him from her thoughts and her life. It was easy enough, since he was living in the Bahamas and she was studying in England, only now Dan was back and showing no inclination to stay out of Anna's way. Worse, he made no secret of his attraction to the grown-up Anna, but what right had he to be so jealous of Brian, when his own long-term loyalties lay elsewhere? Oh, yeah. I mean, it has that added sort of risque element of her foster brother. Y'all were raised as siblings, but yeah. And then we have The Marrying Game, which I'm a good bit of the way into this. Kira's encounter with Matt Remington on a deserted beach was an episode she preferred to forget. She had behaved in a most uncharacteristic way, but no real harm had been done, and she quickly come to her senses. She was lucky to be engaged to kindly, faithful Jeremy, and her future was secure. But wasn't it just Kira's luck to run into Matt again? And her attempt at coolness soon deserted her when she found out that only he could save her father's failing business, and only she could pay the price. Forced marriage. But I guarantee there's going to be a bit more to it than that. I've kind of gotten to the bit where she's on the deserted beach and Kira's met Matt Remington. She stands on like a shard of wood and he helps perform first aid and then cooks her some fresh caught fish, and she thinks he's some rambler living on the beach. It's quite sweet. Oh no! A child has gotten into this. Gotta love children. They gotta leave their mark on everything. It's fine. But yes, I'm looking forward to getting my teeth into those. And this has been like my reading over the last sort of 10 days. I've been getting through about a book a day. I think I might even be missing one, possibly, but yeah. I love Mills Boon. It's a great selection of thrilling reads, and they're from a time as well where you know, there was a lot less like political correctness, so there is a lot of what would now be slapped with trigger warnings and would be branded as toxic. I'm just going to throw that out there. Do I care? No. Do I love it? Yes. Do I want it in reality? A dash here and there wouldn't be bad. But on the whole, you know, there's the distinction of fiction and reality. We all understand this. We're all grown-ups here, or at least I hope we are. If you're not, please click out of this video if you're not grown up. This is not for you. Too late to send out that warning now, isn't it? Anyways, I will be back with more Mills Boon in a future video once I've made my way through more of my library of them. I might actually show in the next video my collection of Mills Boon books, because like I say, there are like over 100 of them. I get them really cheaply off eBay. I used to get a lot of them in charity shops, but not so many. I think a lot of people have probably thrown away these types of Mills Boon. There's not a lot of them in circulation in charity shops anymore. It is a generational thing. You like the Mills Boon books that are available in stores, like they're bind-ups. They're usually like 2 books to a book, and I don't know. I'm not quite as big a fan of the more modern ones, but also, if you'll give me a second, they'll often do bind-ups like this, a trilogy, where the original where these are like older stories, often retitled and republished. Like this came out in 2020, but it includes stories that were originally published in 2013, and oftentimes they will, like this one has all of the original names, but often they will retitle the story. And I remember when my mum used to buy Mills Boon before, she caught on to that really quickly, so she would go to the sort of the copyright and rights page, and it will tell you if it's been published under another name prior. I don't know if that's like a legal obligation, but it's there. And she drastically stopped purchasing Mills Boon at that point. So I don't know if they're just sparse on what they're publishing or what the dealio is, but I like the vintage ones. The vintage ones are great. Anyways, I'll stop this video here and I will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching, and bye bye.